So I think the folks at home can see me. Good evening. Welcome to our March Great Presenters program at the Wayland Library. Tonight, we are excited to have Pablo Suarez and Janot Mendler de Suarez here to talk to us about serious fun for global change. Janot and Pablo work together as researchers, humanitarian practitioners, game designers, and influencers of the discourse on equitable and climate resilient development. They're both visiting research fellows at BU's Pardee Center for the Study of Longer Range Future Work. Longer Range Future. And they work globally with the Red Crescent Climate Center. They've worked for over 25 humanitarian and development organizations in over 80 countries. And I'm going to stop there because now we will witness their brilliance and I'll get out of the way.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
I forgot to say that we are recording.
Sorry, maybe you could just remind
people. Just two little housekeeping things. We are recording for Waycam. So just so you know, if you're showing your face on the Zoom or asking a question in the room, you might see yourself on the recording. But you'll also be able to revisit this later. Thanks.
Yeah. So welcome to those of you who are here with us in person and to all of you who are joining from the comfort, hopefully, of your cozy homes tonight. We are actually running this session with you in a hybrid mode, which is why you don't see both of us standing up here at the front of the room. Pablo is actually in another part of the library. We're pushing the very high-tech systems of the library to the tolerable borders of their limits tonight, running this hybrid meeting. We'd like to actually share with you how during the COVID pandemic, we have had to become extremely agile in translating the way that we work to engage people in some of the thorniest problems, the most difficult conversations of our times, in a hybrid mode over Zoom or WebEx or Teams or one of these. I want to just back up 1 second to our start screen because we have a couple more people in the room. If you happen to have brought a smartphone with you, I'm just going to invite you to use the QR code to open up our little game platform, or you can go to the link there. And Pablo, would you like to say hello?
Yes, hello friends. I hope you can hear me. This is Pablo speaking from another room in the Wayland Library, but for all you know, I could be speaking from my hometown in Argentina or from some well-connected village in sub-Saharan Africa, because with the internet, we can be in multiple places at the same time. Thank you so much, Courtney and Stephen and team at the Wayland Library for making this possible, and we look forward to some engaging, very unconventional session today. Praise on.
Yes. So we wanted to talk with you, we wanted to share with you some of the lessons that we've learned working around the world using fun. There is no reason why, under the most difficult circumstances, we cannot find the fun in our work and with our colleagues, and hopefully in almost every day. We would like to share with you some lessons from 2 areas of work that may seem to you not to have a connection. We'll get into that a little bit later. As Courtney introduced, we work in climate risk management much of the time. We also increasingly have found a need to address issues of racism, diversity, equity, inclusion, which is why we've shared this beautiful artwork, which was produced in one of our workshops, embracing our world with these concepts. So some of the words that we associate with humor, I would like to solicit from you, actually, because we consider humor to be actually a very important tool that we use in our work to open up these difficult conversations. So I'm going to ask you to come up with 3 words that you associate with humor. And I'm just going to ask you to jot them down, and then you can share them with me. So I'm going to give you a little pad and a pen. You just come up with 3 words.
And friends joining online via Zoom, as you can see in the chat, you're invited to write 1 word or 2 words or 3. What comes to mind? What do you think of when thinking of humor? There are no incorrect answers. Let's give you 30 seconds or so.
Don't write.
None of them?
Oh my God.
It's okay.
Can I tell you my words?
We have to be agile. Anne, can you start? Tell me your
Okay.
words.
Fun, joy, and laughter.
Anybody else?
Wit, Rye, W-R-Y,
Love it.
and laugh.
Love.
It's a, well, I was, and used all mine.
That's okay. What would
Well,
your top
laugh.
3 be?
Laugh.
Laugh, comic, and hysterical.
How about you?
I don't know, I said fancy, funny, and fun also.
Fancy, that's a great one.
Yeah,
And you, what words come to mind for you? Oh.
And this pen doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's not funny.
Yes. Oh, but I-
We're gonna give up on these pens. Let me pass the box around. Just see if you can find one and pass it on. But we're not gonna stay too long with this. So some of the words that we often come up with when we talk about this are laughter, joy, smile, stand-up, jokes. Somebody said comic, comedy, smart, happiness, even relaxed, slapstick. These are usual words that are associated with humor. Some of the
Yeah.
unusual
Death is
words
funny.
that are associated with humor. We've heard words like unrest. We work in many countries which are considered to be conflict zones. I've been working for the last 5 or 6 years in Haiti. Before that, I was working in Mali. We've been doing climate screenings for many African countries, including Burkina Faso, which has had a crisis over the last few years, Lebanon, Mozambique. Crises are not always climate crises. Often it's a combination of political crisis, economic crisis, food insecurity, which is one of the largest triggers actually of unrest. Some of the most unusual words that you might see would have to do with death. Death is actually
Funny.
it's something which invokes humor in us. And I'm going to hand over to Pablo to talk to us a little bit more about this.
So what you are seeing here is a cartoon by celebrated legendary cartoonist Bob Mankoff, who used to be editor for cartoons at the New Yorker magazine for a couple decades. Janot and I have had the fortune of having him at home in Wayland. We collaborate with him and many other professional humorists to address difficult conversations on risk. And when we asked him, what do you think of when thinking of humor? He looked at us in the eyes and said, death. And frankly, I thought he was kidding, but look at this cartoon. It may look like a normal day.
But I can't hear.
I can't understand it either.
Can you come maybe a little closer? And his voice is coming out here. Just come up a little closer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apologies, friends. Believe me, I can have a very loud voice, but sometimes technology gets in the way. I hope this is better. Otherwise, please be patient until Janot speaks again. So I was saying, this is a cartoon by Bob Mankoff, best known for his work at the New Yorker magazine. And if you look at this cartoon, it depicts what may appear to be a normal day, gentleman reading the newspaper, lady in the couch looking at him. But of course, the couch is on a stream. The stream is approaching a waterfall. And this is a depiction of how humor works and why it matters to us. If you click, Jan, on the next dotted line that I want to show, we know whether it's your own health experiences or system dynamics modeling, systems tend to change gradually until they change abruptly. And if you allow me, I'm a math geek, with the next button pushing, you will see a few things that we figured out with Bob Mankoff about this cartoon.
Yeah, I have
One
a
more push,
suggestion.
excellent. In this cartoon,
Very
age,
hard to hear him. Can he come down? Is it imperative that he's up there?
yes, you will
he's
have
on
to
Zoom
accept,
with
Some
all
yes.
of us going up there, mate?
He's on Zoom with all the virtual participants.
Oh,
That's why we hear him through the speaker.
So Jano, if you don't mind saying, I will not be long, and they can just please be patient because we have 20 people on Zoom or more that need to be hearing. I apologize for not being as loud as we want. It's the first time I'm asked to not be, to speak louder. So in any case, in this cartoon, letter H stands for horror. How horrific can things get when things get really bad? If you advance to the next one, letter D stands for denial. Do we dare recognize that things are getting pretty bad and we don't seem to be prepared for what's coming? Now, this is the actual caption of the cartoon in the New Yorker. We've got to talk. And how are we having difficult conversations about complex things, whether it's a changing climate or racism and violence or other things? It's not easy. If we advance to the next photo, you will see these are the words that people often think of when thinking of humor. The manifestations of humor like laughter and fun, the mechanisms for humor like jokes or stand-up. But in the next slide, you will see what humorists think when thinking of humor. Jano?
So what humorists think of is actually different from the words that we came up with a couple minutes ago. Humorists are listening for what? For ambiguity, for incongruity, for conflict, for risk, serious questioning, contradiction, danger, puzzlement, bisociation, but also delight, play, two-facedness, expectations, insolence, truth, contrast, and as we pointed out earlier, death. So the humorists are listening for the backstory. They're listening for the unsaid. They're listening for the cognitive dissonance, the things that we're comfortable with, which perhaps we should be uncomfortable with.
So what we're going to do now is to play a little game. The game is called I Think We Think. And Jano, if you want, please explain to the local participants that they will become observers. It's like a spectator sport of the action that happens with participants online.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you, he's going to play with the people online. One of the games that we often use to open a conversation on a difficult subject, like managing climate risk or anti-racism. And this game platform is a virtual platform which you could go into on your phone. If you got the link, you could go into it now.
They covered it.
It went
They
away
covered
too
it with
fast
the
before we
Zoom
got it.
cover there, so we couldn't get the link.
But the way that we use this game platform is to let people connect with each other. We ask a question. First, we ask people, what do you think? And then we ask people, what do you think other people think about this issue? So we could ask you the question, what comes to mind when you're trying to put these two seemingly incongruous concepts together, climate change and racism or anti-racism.
So Janot, may I propose that you advance the slide so that participants online can begin to see? I am going to type in the chat of the Zoom platform a direct link that if you click there, your browser should open and you should see a blue screen similar to what is visible via Zoom. You can enter your real name or some fictional name. It's just to identify the winners, because this is a competitive game. You will win points, and maybe you win more points than everybody else, and you will be acknowledged as the winner. Remember to type enter after you've typed your name. Janot, if you want to, just share the screen of the browser. Maybe Courtney can help.
Yeah, so
And,
if we share this screen, I can show them.
Yeah, that's what we're sharing.
Okay,
Very good.
great. So I'm going to show you what others are doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my name, and I'm going to just call myself, Anonymous. And then I'm going to enter the game platform. It's telling me, hello, Anonymous. So the game is ready to begin.
And then I push a button, and everyone at home and in the library should see very simple invitation. Your thoughts.
So I'm
What's-
going to type your thoughts.
Yeah, and maybe Janot, if you want, stop sharing, because otherwise other players can see what you're writing, and that's part of the thing that we don't want to know, because this is secret. So everyone joining via Zoom, you should be seeing an invitation to write your thoughts. What's in your mind when thinking of climate and or anti-racism? It's your words, you write what you want. One word in the first line, then a second word in the second line, then another word in a third line, and you have about a minute. Please push the yellow submit button at the
So for
bottom. You
you,
may need to scroll
Please
down.
call out your words.
Very good.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. Okay. I don't
If you want.
believe it.
If I,
I would recommend that you try to write only one or two words. That's the invitation.
Okay.
And Janot, can you mute yourself in Zoom, or Courtney, because otherwise we're hearing too much and we want to give people in Zoom not too much information about what goes on. So write your first word, then your second word, then your third word. Because Janot is running the activity in person, we're going to give them half a minute or less. I'm going to write my things.
Couple more words. Tell me. Bees.
Let's see, I'm writing my own words here. And I'm going to click the yellow button, submit, and I'm going to start the countdown for everyone. Janot, if you can hear me, I'm going to start the countdown, 10 seconds. Whoops,
Any more words for me?
there we go. And now I'm going to advance us to the next screen,
Oh,
where
too late.
if you can hear me,
Okay.
the goal now is for you to try to guess, what do you think other people wrote? If you think they wrote the exact same words as you, then you can write on the top line the first word, in the second line the second word, and so on. But if you think they wrote something different, please go ahead and write what you think they wrote. We
What
wrote.
do you
Here's the
think
catch.
all
For every
those
time
people
someone
on
wrote the
Zoom
word that you're
wrote?
guessing, you
What
get
do
a point.
Think other people wrote?
So you may get, I don't know, like 20 points for any one word. And not only you get 1 point per other person writing your word, you also, if you write them from the most popular to the least popular in the correct order, you get 5 additional bonus points. So let's invite you to go ahead and write, what are your guesses? What do you think other people wrote when thinking about climate and or anti-racism? You cannot write the word climate. You cannot write the word anti-racism. Everything else, Just don't be disrespectful. And let's give you 20 seconds or so. Remember to push the yellow submit button at the bottom.
Oops, typing wrong.
And I am pushing the yellow button submit. And I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Be ready. The countdown has happened.
Now, can we go back to sharing?
And
screen?
moving on,
Do I go back?
each one of us should be able to see how many points you got. I may have pushed the advance too quickly, so my apologies if I did that to you.
Ah,
Now here are the two word clouds. Very interesting.
Wow.
On the left, what you wrote as your thoughts: education, seriousness, action, courage, injustice, dangerous, impending doom, problem. Look at the diversity of thoughts. On the right, you see the word clouds with the guesses. There is one converging word, and that's important. All of this is important, but then the other words are less prominent. We see unheeded, fear, equality, violence, poor, truth, false. Of course, that's what happens when you have different people with different opinions. Jan and I have very clear opinions about both topics, but the goal of today is not for you to share, to witness our opinions. It's more to enable you to experience how we go about having these difficult conversations. Jano, maybe we could return to the PowerPoint, and so that we can move on with the remainder of the program. This is one of the many activities that we use to elicit from participants. For example, when we have a meeting of climate science experts and of humanitarian workers, and we ask to talk about flooding, for atmospheric scientists, it may be about rainfall, but for humanitarian workers, it may be about suffering. And it helps visualize the differences in the room. We use playfulness and fun not only for climate, but also for issues involving anti-racism. So you may recognize the person on the, yes.
Yes, so some of you may recognize a central figure in history in this photo. Who is it?
Gandhi.
Yes, it is Gandhi. I'm not sure if some of you may or may not be familiar with this quote. Mr. Gandhi, do you think you are properly dressed for this? There can be, do not worry, he answered, about my clothes. The king has enough clothes for both of us. So a very important message from one of the people who changed the course of history, who we, most of us hold dear, of having the courage to speak truth to power. When he chose to speak truth to power, he did it through humor. And it is a way of showing that humor has many different modes. You can be laughing at, or you can be laughing with. Gandhi used humor with a lot of humility before power, a power structure that he dedicated his life to changing. Another very important figure in the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King. And he said that, Pablo, would you like to read this quote? It is often necessary to laugh.
In order to survive. And
so there we are. He's actually linking laughter as a human need, that we need to be able to laugh in the most difficult circumstances in order to what? Survive. Which brings us full circle with why death can be important in enabling us to use humor to open these conversations. Pablo, I'd like you to share with us what this picture is all about.
So my friends, this is from one of the 17 consecutive UN climate conferences that I have attended. You may have heard of them as COP. I've been to COP 14, COP 15, COP 16, COP 17, all the way to second last one. 17 consecutive events where people arrive on a Monday, they stay over past the weekend until the following week, 2 full weeks, 10,000 people from 200 countries having very intense negotiations about one of the most complex issues on earth. Now, I want you to look carefully at that photo. Would you like to be there?
No.
Do you have much hope that this event with these people can accomplish breakthrough solutions through harmonious, courageous collaboration to deliver what we need to deal with the problems we confront? It's impossible. If you're bored to death, there's no way you can make it happen. And also, how much humor do you see in this room? These events, like many others, are intentionally designed to be deprived of any feeling of being alive, including humor. Janot, if you push the button once, I want you to notice the fellow in the white shirt near the center. We're going to zoom in a moment. And this is exactly how it feels like. Just advance. There we go. Yeah, that's how it feels. That's how I felt from my first hour in my first event in 2004. It is catastrophically lacking courage. And we find that in the absence of courage and creativity and candor and connectedness, there cannot be what we need. So we are beginning to try to bring humor to serious, fun, functionally fun humor to the events that we are part of. So let's advance.
Truly being involved in all of these climate talks, not just, at the annual meeting when all of the countries come together, but working intimately with the disaster managers, with the Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies who are trying to deal with the impacts on the most vulnerable people in the world as our day in, day out work. This is how we feel going to these talks. So we, many years ago, started asking ourselves, if science is not solving our problems, what is missing? And we think it's the human element which is missing, which is why we began to try some different methodologies to bring a little bit of humor into our work. So here's an example of working on the ground with some rural communities in the Zambezi River Basin. This is actually in Namibia, formerly Southwest Africa, a very drought-prone country. They get between maybe 800 or 900 millimeters of rain and 1,200 a year. So the weather and the climate is a very important issue. Do you think you would like to live here? Would you like to be here? How inspired would you be to do water resource management? Well, the approach that we used was to, instead of the usual dry workshop about the science of flood prevention and hydrodynamics, we played a game on early warnings. And can you see in this picture how much fun? Their faces are radiant, big smiles here. The game made it fun to actually develop flood prevention plans. And the plans that were produced playing this game, people are probably still using to this day. So there's another interesting that happens when you bring humor into your work. It engenders trust. And we'd like to say that change happens at the speed of trust. Here's another example of a game that we designed on climate and gender, working with the Kenya Red Cross, with a farmers cooperative in the north of the country. This is a region of Kenya that had just experienced multiple years of crop failure, of their only crop, because of drought. And we wanted to look at some of the fundamental drivers of vulnerability in these communities, one of the most important of which was actually land tenure. Who controls the land, who makes decisions? It's very heavily controlled by men, whereas women play an integral role. They're raising families, they're taking care of the children, of the elderly, they're making the food, they're doing the laundry, but they are also some of the most productive market gardeners. And how to unleash the power of women to bring back agriculture, and also how to combine that with some climate science, because Kenya Red Cross was introducing drought resilient crops. So I just wanted to share with you, you can see the suspense. I was actually throwing a die to represent probabilities of rainfall. And that's why they're laughing so much, because they're waiting to see, is it going to be a 1, which is a drought, or a 6, which is a flood, or is it going to be good rains, a 2, 3, 4, 5? So we're all like, oh no, what's going to happen here? So we wanted to share a little bit with you on that. But we also work at the policy level. And Pablo, I'd like, maybe you could share with us, what on earth were you doing with this very Frisbee made it through White House security?
Yeah, so that's the one that made it. The other one I had intended to use, which was this big, was confiscated because it had a little wire on the rim, and they thought, understandably, that maybe I had intentions to strangle. But no, I think I'm a good guy. I have no intention to strangle. The context was that in the context of my work as a humanitarian, I was invited to the White House, this is a few administrations ago, to be one of 130 participants invited to an event about a variety of topics. Imagine the event. Important person says hello and welcome to this important event. We're going to have lots of talks about important issues. Keynote speaker, very important person, number 4 in the hierarchy of the executive, and then panels. Presenter number 1, PowerPoint. Hello, my name is so and so, organization this and that, and there was this problem. Photo of the people in the problem and the farmer and the hunger and so on. And then my organization arrived and we did this awesome thing. Photo of the action, graph, equation, map, and then there was a solution. If you give us money, we can do more. Thank you very much. Next presenter. Hello, I'm this other person from this other team, and there was this other problem. And when we arrived, we discovered we should do this other solution, and map, equation, graph, photo, and logos. And then if you give us money, and then the third presenter, and then the fourth, the coffee break, you must be already kind of falling asleep. Then another presenter, then presentation 6, 7, lunch break, next presenter, and then it was my turn. I had certainty that people would be essentially brain dead. So in the 5 minutes that were allocated to me, I said, hello, my name is Pablo from the Red Cross, and this is not a Frisbee, it is a hurricane. If it hits you in the chest, you are in trouble. Everyone, please stand up. And people were like, what? And those who were a little bit awake, they were confused, and I invited them, they stood up, and then I explained the rules. I threw some dice, and then I threw the Frisbee, and it hit people in the chest, and they were very confused. And I said, well, look, if you fear that it may hit you, you can sit down, which is essentially evacuation. But if you sit down over here and the hurricane goes over there, someone may steal your refrigerator. Again, throw the dice, throw the Frisbee, hits people until eventually, after 4 or 5 rounds, someone figured out the rule. If I threw a double 6, if I rolled a double 6, throw the Frisbee over there, roll a double 1 over there, interpolate, it was a 5 and a 3, and people said, oh my goodness, it's going over there. They all sat down as I threw with violence the foam Frisbee, which doesn't hurt, flew above the heads of people, hit the wall, and everyone's like, yay, in celebration. And when the celebration subsided, congratulations, you just connected science and early warning with early action and saving lives. Now think of Hurricane Katrina. There's so much we can do. My name is Pablo from the Red Cross. We can work with you to help connect science with action. Humor can help people turn something strange like science into something familiar. Or the other way, it can turn something familiar and accepted, like the fact that people die in the richest country on earth for entirely predictable reasons, and turn it into something strange. How could this be? Humor can help us communicate more effectively. If we advance to the next slide, this is when my colleague Andrew Kruksiewicz and I, from our Red Cross team, we were invited to spend 4 days training a team at NASA Earth Science program that deals with disasters. They have
So it looks
fantastic.
like he's in a comedy club.
Yeah.
He's at NASA.
And we took advantage of that because the first day, NASA teams were going to present to each other and to us their work: satellite image, mathematical modeling, atmospheric monitoring. And we said, you know what? This looks like a comedy club. Let's give people a task. We said, you're no longer who you think you are. You're now a journalist with a time machine. You're NASA. You have a time machine. And then when a colleague presents something they're doing about, satellite images of hurricanes or floodplains or whatever, you imagine you go into the future and you have to write as a team at your table one good news headline and one bad news headline, and then come to the front and share it. Everyone listened attentively. They were having fun writing those bad news headlines. They included fake news, by the way. And then when the presentation ended and the headlines were shared, candor could happen. The humorous element allowed people to say, this is impossible to understand, or your color choices are misleading, or this will be misinterpreted and people will act in vain or will fail to act. And it was beautiful to see how the vibe in the room emerged, allowing people to speak truth to each other in a way that was welcomed. 4 days at NASA, playing games, working with humorists, talking science, inspiring people to do differently. In the next photo, you will see a close-up of one of our sessions, which was a game that we developed with Janot, with funding from the World Bank, from our Red Cross team. Can you believe I'm just saying those words, NASA, Red Cross, World Bank, and game with dice, to help people understand how satellite images and atmospheric modeling, especially for early warnings, can be used to make better decisions that save lives. And that could be about financial instruments like insurance or about humanitarian endeavors like supporting evacuation and shelter. We're going to give you a little taste of this. So Janot, if you want to stop sharing screen, Janot, because we're going to do the, oh, thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
So here's what we're going to do. This is a taste of the game. The game usually takes a little longer, but we are going to keep it short. On a normal day, and by the way, colleagues who are joining via Zoom, if you want, this is a good chance for you to turn on the camera. It's very safe. You don't need to fear anything. Otherwise, I will invite you to type in the chat your comments, your answers. So on a normal day, things are good. Can you show me in the room or in Zoom your thumbs up? Thumbs up. Thank you. You can also use in the chat the emoji thing for the thumbs up. If you do this, you win 1 point if things are good. Now, if you have 2 hands, can you do 2 thumbs up? Excellent. This gives you 2 points, which is awesome if things are good. But guess what? Sometimes things are not good. I have here a similar version to what Janot has in the room where some of the participants are. This object, it may look like a die, but it is what in science we call the probability density function of extreme events based on the historical record of precipitation. What do I mean? That most of the time rains are okay, not too much, not too little, but sometimes rains are too much. And if you invest in a thumbs up and this happens, you lose your investment and you get a broken heart. You do not win a point, you lose your investment and you get a broken heart.
So if
The bigger the number, the more
if I
rainfall.
throw this represents flood. this drought, any other number, good rains, good rains, good rains. Okay.
And for the time being, we're going to assume that a 1 is no problem. You're okay with too much rain. But if too much, you're okay with too little rain. But if too much rain happen and you want to be protected, you can invest in an umbrella. Can you show me your umbrellas, people in the room or people in Zoom?
So if you
Excellent.
invest,
This is protection against too much rain. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to give you less than 30 seconds to make a decision. Before the countdown, Janot is going to roll the die twice. You could do this and win 2 points if there's no extreme event. But if 1 or more 6s happen, you lose everything. You could be very risk averse and do double umbrella. If you do double umbrella, you could get 1 6 after the other and you're fine. You get no broken heart, but you win no points. Umbrella means no thumbs up. Or you could say, I'm going to go for 1 thumbs up and 1 umbrella. So if 1 6 happens, you use up your umbrella, but you still win a point, assuming the other one is not a 6. So the question for you is, what are you going to do before the deadline? Are you going to double thumbs up, double umbrella, or 1 and 1? And if you don't have your camera on, you can go into the chat, and I'm going to write here, for example, 2 umbrella, or 2 thumbs up, or 1 umbrella, 1 thumbs up. So what are you going to do? You have 20 seconds. Show me, are you going to do this or do this or do this before the roll? I see Jeannie is going for 1 umbrella, 1 thumbs up. The same is true of Nancy and Sharon. Hendrik is also going for that choice. I don't see any risk.
how many rolls, Pablo?
Are you ready to roll?
2 rolls, correct?
Yes, 2 rolls.
2 rolls.
And make your, I see the camera is beginning to show us
Make your
people in the audience.
investments Quick.
There's
before the
John
rains
Landry
come.
also. Oh, a lot of protective people here.
Okay, ready to roll?
Okay,
Yeah.
go and roll.
Keep your investments up.
Oh.
Yes.
To see how you do.
Okay.
So Janot is rolling
No.
the first rain.
Show your thumbs up
Oh,
for your umbrella.
There you go. And what is it?
I had 3.
It's a 3.
Thumbs up. All the thumbs
So,
up are okay.
For those of you who
Those
invested
with
thumbs up,
umbrellas?
you're happy.
You might
Now-
be thinking, why did I buy that umbrella? But
Let's
there's
see
one
what happens
more-
with the second one.
One more
So
rainstorm coming.
My umbrella is kaput.
5.
It's a 5, so it rained a lot, but not too much. So here's what happened. For all of you who did this, which is the majority of you, this umbrella appears to have been a waste. You got that umbrella, no one needed it. Your donors, if you're the Red Cross, or your taxpayers, if you're government, are saying, why did you over invest in climate risk management? Now, of course, you couldn't know ahead of time.
Why didn't
right?
you invest in education or healthcare, or things that are useful? Why invest in that flood protection?
Now, let's imagine that the scientists are using their, not magical, but their awesome powers to look at what's going on, and they notice that there is a tropical depression and it's evaporating a lot of water, which is even more so because the ocean is hotter. I don't care what you believe, it's hotter, and hotter water evaporates more easily, and that water is coming in giant dark clouds to somewhere towards New England. So now, instead of rolling the 6-sided die, we're going to essentially flip a coin. Janot is going to show you the one that flew in the White House. If it falls like this,
He likes his joke.
no problem. It's good for thumbs up. If it falls like this with a dark circle on top, it means too much rain, you need an umbrella. So she's going to throw this object twice. If it falls like this 2 times, then 2 thumbs up is good. If it falls like this, you need an umbrella. If it falls twice, you need 2 umbrellas. Or maybe you want to go for 1 and 1. What are you going to do? People on Zoom, people in the room, you have 20 seconds. I see Karen has already made up her mind. 1 thumbs
So
up.
this is what happens with the changing climate.
And I see Marie is going for double umbrella. The same is true of Ginny.
So
I cannot see Hendrik,
this is,
but
this is all
what
the
are you going
scientific
to do?
information you have.
The risks
I will
have
throw this
changed.
twice. If it lands this way,
Jano is
need to have
explaining
that
to people in the
umbrella.
room, so bear with us.
If it lands this way, it's okay. Your investment is sound. So are you going to invest?
Can we do this again? Invest in umbrella?
What do you want to do? 2 thumbs up, 1 umbrella, 2 umbrellas. I'm going to throw it twice.
Ginny is bravely holding her 2 umbrellas. And we can roll.
Okay. We're okay. We've
The
got,
first time was okay.
we're okay. We're going to roll the second. And we're still okay.
See, I would have been-
See, what happened was that giant dark cloud decided to turn around, and maybe it's hitting Nova Scotia, or maybe it's hitting Bermuda, or maybe it's hitting, I don't know, the Carolinas. What we know is that Ginny and many others in this event did what we think is the right thing. When the risks change and the threat becomes more prominent, maybe some of your investments that were going to be for a normal day, they could be allocated to protection. And this could apply to tomorrow's hurricane or blizzard. It could apply to medium-term issues like pandemics, or it could apply to long-term issues like sea level rise. We will not go through the motions, but we have designed a version of this game which is for 10 rounds. Most of you do not have 10 hands. So in the digital platform, you have 10 units of investment. And Jano, if you want to go back to sharing screen with the PowerPoint, people could see that they have 10 thumbs up, but they can increase the number of umbrellas. Then we introduce that a number 1 is a drought. So you need buckets to collect water. That's what you see of the digital interface. We have run this game with World Bank colleagues across Southeast Asia. We have run it with the Parliament of Uganda. I have run it at the Vatican, believe it or not, with the equivalent of the Secretary of Environment. And you know, people engage, people learn, people connect, people want to learn more. And when you propose a change, like from this to that, people completely understand. Indeed, there's more to this. Jano, would you like to take over for the next slide?
Yes. So, oops, trying to, there we are. So, as Pablo said, we designed this game. Originally, we designed it for the World Bank to launch the green economy for Southeast Asia. So we played the original version of this game live with planning ministers, finance ministers from a dozen or so Asian countries in Indonesia. Big conference. They all came together in a conference for a few days. And we had an entire day in which our task was to enable government planners and finance people to come to grips with the deep uncertainty of a changing climate. So to represent the odds with, you know, rainfall, we can say this is the historical probability distribution function of rainfall. We can show you how our decision-making changes when the risks change, when the odds change. But with the uncertainty that is associated with a changing climate, we don't always know whether it means more frequent extreme events, more intense extreme events, or events that we have never experienced in a certain part of the world before. There are known unknowns and there are unknown unknowns. So we thought, how do we represent this fundamental concept in a way that can enable planners to make decisions? So we came up with this idea of the cone of uncertainty. And we actually, to tell you the truth, I'll give you a little secret. So the cat had a recent veterinary procedure. So this thing was lying around the house, and we started playing with it, and we thought we could use this to represent what if we throw it up in the air and it comes down on its big base? We could say, well, that represents flood, too much rainfall. And if it comes down, the other way, lands on its small base, we could say that represents drought, too little rainfall. And if it lands on its side and rolls on the floor, this third way, we could say that represents the uncertainty in a changing climate. So we invented this whole game. The chief economist for sustainable development at the World Bank has a little 3D printed cone in her office because she was so thrilled with the way that this simple device in the game, which we just played with you, but a little bit more complicated with more rolling more seasons and with more options, enabled people to really come to grips about decision-making, investment trajectories for countries that are at extreme risk. So, oh dear. So we have employed other methodologies that have to do with humor, working with the World Bank on some other thorny problems. So we had a workshop which was with an unnamed government on government accountability. What do you think that is code for? Part of it, I'll tell you, is corruption.
Right.
This is one of the realities. Nobody wants to say the word. So we thought, how can we spend all this money to bring people together, fly them, to a conference facility, and come to grips with some of these very difficult issues in government accountability in countries that are suffering under multiple problems: changing climate, economic problems, food insecurity problems, and often ethnic, racial tensions driving a lot of these issues also. So we thought, let's try using cartoons. Now this cartoon, what are these two guys doing? They're sitting in traffic. One of them is saying to the other, try honking again.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that have to do with government accountability? Well, we printed these up large. You can see them. We printed them and we pasted them on the wall. We got everybody up out of their seats. We gave them markers and we invited them to have conversations with each other about what this variety of cartoons that we selected could reveal about the issues of governance that they are trying to come to grips with. So these are some of the things they wrote. Context matters. What does voice do if unable to move? Why do we continue to repeat mistakes in public policy, even in the era of evidence generation and use, data? Get out of your car and into the streets. Get real, figure out what people are really concerned about. So I'm not going to read all of them, but signal to noise ratio, food for thought. I'm raising the issue. You can find the solution. So, I mean, this is how stimulating this, exercise employing humor proved to be in a real life situation. And you can see on the faces of these people, we were talking about how, it engenders trust to be able to talk about this extremely difficult issue, which normally you wouldn't put it on an agenda. You would have a hard time getting people to talk, and they were able to open up with each other. We developed this methodology, which we call a cartoonathon. And the cartoonathon is, initially it was a collaboration with the World Bank, but we mentioned working with Bob Mankoff, the celebrated 25 years, he was the cartoon editor for the New Yorker, and he wanted to cultivate the ability of young cartoonists, think of a young cartoonist could submit 100, even 1,000 times to the New Yorker and never get published. It doesn't mean that their work isn't good. So Bob Mankoff created cartoon collections. And we thought this mine of humor, the way I showed you how don't try honking again, it doesn't actually relate to government accountability, but it does. So we thought we can mine these very clever cartoons to put together exercises and events that use humor to broker some of these difficult conversations, so that we can confront our contradictions, we can come to terms with incongruities, we can find a way through tensions, we can actually find the humanity and laugh at some of the absurdities through serious fun. Some of the partners we've worked with here in Boston with Northeastern University, BMW Foundation, the IFRC, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, in addition to our World Bank partners. We've made this use of humor and the cartoonathon methodology central to anti-racism trainings that we've been delivering since 2021 with the World Bank. And again, we initiated, the World Bank is probably 10,000 people, literally every country of the world, big headquarters in Washington, DC. They're working with governments, especially developing country governments, trying to eradicate poverty, trying to increase prosperity for the benefit of humanity, but also to do good business, to do smart business. And guess what? They discovered that there's a big problem, there's a big elephant in the room, which is holding back, it's hindering a lot of their work. And they asked us if we could assist in opening these conversations with different teams within the bank. So to date, we've run anti-racism workshops with teams in West Africa, Latin America, Caribbean, internally with the operational policy group, the policy setters, but all of it is working with the social sustainability and inclusion division within the World Bank, and has become increasingly in demand as a support for their global teams. And what's interesting is that when you use humor, when you use cartoons, people want to continue the conversation. So one of the things that we've developed is a collaboration with a game platform company. It's called Good Games. They're actually based in Maine, and they have assisted us to create ways that people can come together virtually, because remember, we've been forced, we couldn't put a stop, we couldn't put a hold on everything during the global pandemic. So we've been forced to figure out how can we bring these interactive methodologies that we've used in rural villages, from rural villages to parliaments, to government ministries. How can we bring people together in a virtual space and engender that same degree of engagement and trust, so that people can actually make a difference, so that they can work together closely enough, trust each other enough to do something differently and better going forward. So this game platform, I'm going to hand over to Pablo to tell you about.
So friends joining via Zoom, it's the same link as before. If your browser is still open, you can go there. Otherwise, I copy pasted in the chat. What you're going to encounter there is a blue screen that says, welcome to galleries. Your game will start shortly. And as soon as I push this button, you should be able to enter your name if you want, but bear in mind your annotations will be anonymous. What you write will not be tagged to your name. So you will be seeing now, and Jano, if you want to advance, or maybe you want to share the screen of the browser, Jano and Courtney, from the room, so people in the room can see what others online are seeing. There's a selection of about 8 or 10 cartoons that were actually created in real time during these workshops that Janot mentioned with the World Bank and others on anti-racism. So Janot, if you want to push enter on your Anonymous, and then what you will see is a few cartoons. If you click on any one of them, you will see that you can type a comment in the bottom. You are invited to savor that cartoon. So this one, someone is saying, yes, we should work on that bad thing that affects you, says the lighter skinned fellow to the other fellow. The thought balloon says, not now, not soon, maybe eventually. But the other person is thinking, now. Now, is this intended to provoke laughter? No, this is not intended as a joke. This is intended to invite us to think. So go to the text box in the bottom and leave a comment, a question, a suggestion, a concern, an offer, an idea. Keep it short, a few words, one word, no more than a tweet length. And then click the submit button. You may need to scroll down to see the submit button, and then go view the next one. You may enjoy it or not. You may write something or not. Push the arrow, and we're going to give you a few moments, let's say 4 minutes or less, to go through some or most or all of these cartoons and type what comes to mind. What you write will be like a graffiti. For those of you who are in person, Janot has some printed postcards with different cartoons, which are not about racism, they're about climate and risk. And you can write something on the background, on the backside, and then you can pass the cards around and annotate and see what others have annotated. I see comments are beginning to come on the online platform. There's already 4 or more. I'm going to go silent and invite you to go for it.
Comments on the back. You can write either, one word, an emotion that, it invokes for you. You can
Invite an insight that it sparks for you.
Please remember to push the yellow button submit at the bottom. You may need to scroll down.
Brief. And as soon as
And
you
the
have,
comments keep coming.
and pass it on to the next person. We'll keep them moving. I'll give you a new one. No, I'm gonna pass this one to you. He's ready.
Keep it coming. We already have 12 comments.
These pens are, sorry, they don't work. Give you a new one.
Okay, you're being prolific.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna pass this one to you. This one's done. Okay. Here, I'll pass this one to you.
And for those of you watching this via Wacom,
Like a new one?
thank you for joining us. This has been recorded during a live session where participants are being invited to contribute in real time to a digital platform. And guess what? You are joining with some delay, so we're going to leave these annotated cartoons on the website for you to view and enjoy. We will be returning to the activity with everyone in a minute or so.
Which one would you like to trade? I've got somebody who needs a new one. Okay.
All right, we already have more than 25 comments. Let's give you 1 more minute.
You could just write one word. How does it make you feel? Yeah. You ready? That's the next one. Yeah. I'm gonna. Oh, you did that one already.
And let's give you 20 seconds or so.
He needs a new one. I think he's done that. Okay. Have you finished with this? Okay. Have you done this one?
Let's give you 10 seconds or so.
Countdown. 5.
And start wrapping it up. Push the yellow button as needed.
Okay,
3,
finish your
2,
thought, and I'm gonna collect
1,
them.
and we're going to move on. I'm going to go all the way to the end. We usually have the option of reviewing comments and deleting any that may be offensive or inappropriate. I am going to assume that all is good. And here you are with the summary of the cartoons and their annotations. You're more than qualified, but unfortunately, we already have a Black woman working here. And look at the comments.
So
To
now we're gonna
truth,
see what the
tokenism,
online people
etc.
wrote.
And
About-
Janot, if you want to scroll and comment locally with your own laptop, so people can see.
Okay, yeah. So here we can see what the online people wrote about these cartoons. You're more qualified, but unfortunately, we already have a Black woman working here. Token, I'm trans, too true, uncomfortably true, so real. Exactly. How are we going to recognize reality? Great.
If you want to, yeah, push the close and then scroll down, Janot.
Oh, there we go. Okay. The next one. Can you see this cartoon? The cartoon, there's this poor little kid who's being held up, and all the thought bubbles say, I'm not a racist. And nobody's paying attention to what's happening to this child.
Those good comments.
Yeah, so the comments were great. Someone should send this directly to Elon Musk, look the other way, uncomfortable. This one, the chessboard, the equity chessboard here, real world chess, wealth distribution, stacked board, too segregated. Then we have the Fego cartoon, fear, funny, but Wayland before the efforts of local police to address patterns that were not right. Thanks for progress. Broken headlight.
And Janot, I'm going to propose that we will leave this website available to everyone
Yes.
because we only have about 5 minutes left, and actually less than 5.
Not the woman
So,
No, no.
so we have a wide selection of cartoons that
So-
we created in this context. And if any of you are interested in the context of your work or in the context of your activism to use these tools, by all means, feel free to reach out to us and we can help you explore ways to use these approaches. Janot, if you want to advance us to the next one, all the way down, further, we're going to go to the I like, I will, I wonder.
Oop.
Yes, that was good. Well, actually, this is a good one too. Oops, I don't know what's going on. PowerPoint became too active. There we are, slide 37.
Okay, yes.
So this is what we find, that people too often give answers, but people didn't have the question in their head. So if you convey information, people tune out. What we do through gameplay, through humor, through this kind of digital playfulness is to first create a little bit of confusion. People are like, huh, what is this? And then they want to solve
What
a
seems
puzzle.
strange?
And then if things are right, there's an experience of joy, of release, of haha, which then becomes aha, I get it. This relates to us. This is who we are. There's something we can do better. So to advance us to the very last one, this again, we can separate people on the Zoom platform. You can just open the chat and write one statement that starts with, I like something that happened in the last 90 minutes or so, or I will something that you have an intent to do because of what you experienced, or I wonder do you have any curiosity? Do you have any questions that we can note? Let's give you 2 minutes or less. And Janot, if you want to go mute on your end and invite people or actually you can just stay with the microphone and invite colleagues in the room to tell you what they like, what they will, what they wonder.
Yeah. So
We have
This
2
is-
minutes
this is
to
our
end.
untraditional Q&A.
And I'm going to say
I'd
here,
first like to ask you like
invitation
of
to type
what
in
we've
the
shared
chat.
with you. What were some things that you
I
might have
like,
liked?
or I will, or I wonder. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, Jeannie.
Purpose is to solve our problems, and it's not working.
And feel free to share.
Thank you.
We had a
Anybody
workshop just
Something
today or yesterday with a team led by a Wayland neighbor, Michael, who trains teachers on executive function, and they're going to be using these games on humor for their own work across the nation, from Wayland to the US and beyond. Thank you, Catherine. Approaching via friendship and good feelings, which allow for difficult feelings to be addressed properly. And Jano, if you want to begin to wrap up, because we have a minute to go.
Anything that has inspired you to maybe do something or do something differently?
I was being a wise guy. I was gonna say I'm gonna learn to play frisbee.
But actually, that's a great response, because if you're not a frisbee player, it takes a lot of courage to learn something new. Pablo just tried to play ultimate frisbee, and he was laid up for a week with a sore shoulder. So be careful with what can be fun. Do you have any questions for us? What are you wondering about?
Well, I wanted to say something about I will, and I will try to, remember what I've seen and taken in whatever group I'm in. And to really keep this idea that, we really all want to connect. That's what I think. And so the way to do it is through joy, laughter, fun, and taking a chance. We need to speak to each other. Nothing will ever get done. We need to stay in the conversation. I will remember that we need to stay in the conversation.
We need to stay in the conversation. Thank you. If nobody else has a question, we're running a little over, so I wanted to close. We will stay, and we're happy to take more questions, but we don't want to hold you longer than you were expecting to be out tonight.
And of course, thank you to the library
Thank you
team
very
for making
much.
this possible.
For the chance to share with you.